I have spent 14 years preparing for scenarios that most people refuse to even imagine. And in all that time, I have watched the prepping community repeat the same dangerous mistake over and over again with terrifying consistency. They all read the same websites. They all watch the same channels. They all build the exact same stockpile. And when a real crisis finally arrives, not the hypothetical kind, but the lights out, shelves cleared, roads blocked kind, that uniform stockpile vanishes from stores within hours, sometimes minutes. This is not speculation. I have watched it happen, repeatedly. What I am about to share with you is not the gear everyone else talks about. This is the list I have never shown another prepper, not because I am hoarding information, but because in a real collapse, the most dangerous thing you can be is predictable. What protects you is being the person who prepared for what nobody else even considered. There are 11 items on this list. Every single one of them has been available on shelves during every major supply disruption I have witnessed because nobody in the mainstream prepping world thought to look for them. That ends today. Pay close attention because the window to get ahead of this is closing faster than most people realize. Item 1. Potassium iodide tablets. Stop scrolling. This is the one item that could literally save your life and your thyroid in the same moment, and almost nobody in the prepping community has it. Here is a fact most people actively avoid thinking about. There are over 90 active nuclear power plants operating inside the United States right now. Add military reactors, research facilities, and aging infrastructure that was never designed for the kind of grid stress we are increasingly experiencing, and you have a radiological threat landscape that FEMA, the CDC, and the Department of Homeland Security all have formal response protocols for. This is not paranoia. This is documented federal contingency planning. In a serious grid-down event or infrastructure attack, radioactive iodine can travel on wind currents for hundreds of miles. Your thyroid absorbs it. That absorbed radiation causes thyroid cancer. The exposure window closes fast, sometimes within hours of a release event. Potassium iodide floods your thyroid with stable iodine first, leaving no room for the radioactive version to bind. The FDA approved this. The U.S. government has been distributing KI tablets to communities near nuclear facilities for decades. A 14-tablet pack costs between $8 and $12. The shelf life exceeds 7 years. It weighs almost nothing. I have been to more prepper meetups than I can count over 14 years. I have never once seen a single person pull out a pack of potassium iodide. Not once. Everyone has a water filter. Everyone has a tourniquet. Nobody has the one item that addresses one of the most catastrophic and plausible threats in any real infrastructure collapse. This goes in your kit tonight, not next week. Tonight. Item 2. Cheap, unflavored vodka, 40% ABV minimum. Before you dismiss this, give me 60 seconds, because the numbers on this one are almost embarrassing when you see them clearly. A single $10 bottle of basic vodka functions as a wound disinfectant when nothing else is available, a fire accelerant that ignites from a single spark, a surface antiseptic for tools and instruments, a topical fever management tool documented in pre-modern medical records, a last resort pain management option, and a barter item of genuine psychological value in a prolonged crisis when people desperately want something familiar and comforting. An EMT who had worked disaster relief operations in 2 different countries told me to my face that small bottles of spirits were among the most functionally useful and psychologically critical items she encountered in the field, used for wound care, pain management, and trade when proper medical supplies had been exhausted. She called it the single most underrated item she had ever seen in a disaster context. 1 item, 6 functions, under $12. If you are not carrying this, you are leaving a critical multi-tool off your list. Item 3. Baofeng UV5R dual band radio. This is the one that genuinely terrifies me when I think about how many people do not have it. Picture this. The grid is down. Your phone is dead. Social media is inaccessible. News websites are offline. How are you making life or death decisions about where to go, what roads to avoid, where the danger is moving, and where resources are being distributed? How do you know anything? In a real information blackout, that question is not philosophical. It is the entire survival equation. The Baofeng UV5R is a dual-band radio that costs $25 to $30 at any electronics retailer. It receives NOAA weather alerts, local emergency services transmissions, FEMA emergency broadcasts, Civil Air Patrol communications, and, critically, amateur radio operators, who are often the first people transmitting accurate ground-level information when every other channel has gone dark. Amateur radio operators were on air within hours after Hurricane Katrina when cell networks had completely collapsed. They were transmitting during the 2021 Texas grid failure when millions of people had zero information access and no idea what was happening. These operators do not need internet. They do not need cell towers. They communicate when everything else fails. The Baofeng is also a scanner. For $25 and 2 AA batteries, you have situational awareness across every frequency that matters in an emergency. While everyone around you stares at a blank phone screen, you are listening to real people telling you what is actually happening on the ground. This is not optional gear. This is the difference between informed decisions and blind panic. Item 4. A pressure canner. I need you to do the math with me right now, because most preppers have a catastrophic gap in their food system and they do not even know it exists until it is too late. You have a chest freezer full of protein, chicken, ground beef, pork, months of carefully built supply. You feel confident, you feel ready, then a power outage runs 9 days. I am not giving you a hypothetical. That happened to me. I sat in front of a failed chest freezer containing over $300 worth of protein I had built over months, watching it become unsalvageable. Every bit of it gone in under 2 weeks, because I had no way to preserve it without electricity. That was the day I understood that a freezer-dependent protein supply is not a stockpile. It is a liability with a time limit. A quality pressure canner costs around $300 as a one-time investment. The USDA has documented pressure canning as a safe preservation method for low-acid foods including raw meat, poultry, fish, and legumes with a shelf life of 2 to 5 years per sealed jar. No freezer, no refrigeration, no electricity of any kind. Home canned chicken runs roughly $2 to $3 per pound versus $12 to $20 per pouch for the freeze-dried equivalent. The math is not even close. And a pressure canner sitting on a kitchen shelf looks like a hobby appliance? That is the point. Quick pause. If this is genuinely useful to you, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. This kind of information only reaches people when you help it travel. Item 5. A propane refill adapter. This one is criminally underrated, and the moment you see the numbers, you are going to wonder how you missed it. Most preppers who use propane rely on 1-pound camping canisters. Each canister gives you roughly 1 to 2 hours of cooking time. Even if you stockpile 50 of them, which takes up substantial space and costs $150 to $200, you have at most 100 hours of cooking fuel for a family over 3 months. That is not enough, not even close. A 20-pound propane tank holds the equivalent of roughly 21 1-pound canisters. It costs $30 to $50 filled, and a $15 refill adapter, the kind that connects a standard camping canister to a large tank, lets you refill your small canisters directly whenever they run empty. 3 large tanks instead of 50 individual canisters, same money, a fraction of the storage space, and you can refill a depleted canister in under 2 minutes whenever you need to. I watched a man at a preparedness drill refill 4 empty canisters in under 10 minutes with a single adapter. Every person watching had never seen it done. Every single one of us bought an adapter that week. This information circulates in tight prepper circles and almost never makes it to a mainstream audience. Item 6, a compact fishing kit. This is the item most preppers completely overlook because they think about food supply only in terms of what they have stored, and stored food runs out. An Altoids tin containing 10 assorted hooks, 50 feet of 10-pound monofilament line, 6 split-shot weights, and 2 small bobbers. Total weight, under 2 ounces. Total cost, $3 to $6. Fits in a shirt pocket. You set 2 lines before dark. You go to sleep. You check them in the morning. Whatever is on those hooks is bonus protein that did not come from your stored supply. Completely passive food generation from any water source, creek, river, pond, lake, with 0 energy expenditure and 0 noise output. I can tell you from direct personal experience, a food resupply that failed to arrive on a camping trip led me to set 2 lines in a creek at 9 p.m. By 6 a.m., I had 4 fish. Breakfast and lunch handled. 0 effort. $4 of total investment. You do not need to be an experienced fisherman. You need to know 1 knot, attach bait, suspend the line, and walk away. That is the full skill requirement. During supply disruptions, fishing kits sit fully stocked on store shelves because nobody is panic buying them. Item 7, physical cash, $250 in mixed small bills. This one should not need explaining, but the number of preppers who have week 3 planned and hour 6 completely ignored is alarming. In the first 24 to 72 hours of any serious regional crisis, electronic payment infrastructure fails before almost anything else. Power outages kill card readers. Network disruptions kill mobile payments. Banking system problems kill ATMs. In the 2021 Texas winter storm, in major flooding events across multiple states, every time without exception, the people with physical cash could still buy fuel, water, food, and a way out. The people without it could not. Most people assume they will get to an ATM when things deteriorate, but ATMs require electricity. ATMs require network connectivity. Remove either one and your debit card is a branded piece of plastic with no function. $250 in 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s, sealed in a waterproof zip pouch. Rotated annually, costs nothing to store, weighs nothing, works when every electronic system around you has gone completely dark. The first 72 hours of a crisis still runs on cash. Plan for that window or accept that you are vulnerable in it. Item 8, a cat tourniquet. I am going to be direct with you because this one is genuinely life and death, and most preppers are not carrying one. A severed femoral artery kills in 3 to 5 minutes, not hours, 3 to 5 minutes. In a grid-down scenario, in a vehicle accident on an empty road, in any traumatic injury event where emergency services are hours away, that 3 to 5 minute window is the entire situation. Survivable with immediate intervention, not survivable without it. The U.S. military documented that a significant percentage of preventable combat deaths resulted from extremity bleeding that could have been stopped in the field. After mandatory cat tourniquet adoption was implemented, those deaths dropped dramatically. This is not anecdotal. This is documented data from real combat deployments going back to 2005. You do not need medical training to apply a tourniquet, a loop, a rod, and a windlass clip. Place it above the wound on the limb. Tighten until bleeding stops. Lock the rod. Write the time on the white strip. The American College of Surgeons publishes free training videos. The full procedure takes 25 minutes to learn. A genuine cat tourniquet from North American Rescue costs $25 to $30, not the counterfeit versions that sell for $8 and fail under actual pressure. The real one, 2 ounces, fits flat in any bag pocket. Most preppers have hundreds of dollars in food storage and zero capacity to keep themselves alive through a traumatic bleeding event. This is a serious problem. If this content is hitting home, smash like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts below. Your engagement is what keeps this channel going. Item 9, hand crank or solar battery bank. Here is an item that almost never appears on mainstream prepper lists, despite being one of the highest value pieces of equipment available for under $40. A dual input battery bank, one that charges via both solar panel and a hand crank mechanism, gives you a power source with no dependency on the grid whatsoever. In a grid-down scenario that extends beyond 48 hours, the ability to charge a Baofeng radio, a headlamp, a medical device, or even a basic phone for emergency communication becomes enormously valuable. The hand crank option specifically matters because cloud cover can neutralize solar charging for days. The crank is your redundancy. Units with a 10,000 to 20,000 mAh capacity are available for $30 to $50. Many include a built-in LED flashlight, an SOS strobe, and an AM/FM no AA radio receiver. In an extended outage, a charged radio and a working light source are not luxuries. They are the difference between informed action and panicked guessing in the dark. This sits on shelves unstocked by most preppers because it looks like camping gear. That is exactly why it is available when you need it. Item 10, super glue. Gel formula, bear with me for 30 seconds because this $2 item performs work that a $30 repair kit cannot match. Cyanoacrylate, super glue, is chemically almost identical to the medical-grade tissue adhesive that emergency room physicians use to close lacerations. A former combat medic I encountered in a wilderness first aid course described using a dollar store tube of super glue to close a field wound during deployment when suture kits were unavailable. He presented this without drama. The room went silent. But here is what most people miss. In a survival context, super glue is primarily a repair tool, not a medical one. A split boot sole on mile 3 of a bug out on foot, a cracked water container bleeding your supply, a broken pack buckle, a torn tarp in a rainstorm at 2 a.m., a snapped tool handle. One small gel tube resolves all of it. I carry 4 tubes. Total cost, under $5. Total weight, negligible. Available fully stocked at every dollar store during every supply disruption because nobody thinks of it as emergency gear. Item 11, a hand-powered grain mill. This is the long game item that most preppers never think about until their stored food starts running low, and by then it is too late to acquire one. White rice and instant oats are common prepper staples, but whole grains, wheat berries, corn, dried legumes, store for 20 to 30 years under proper conditions and cost a fraction of processed alternatives. The problem is that without electricity, turning whole grains into usable food requires manual milling. A quality hand-powered grain mill costs $60 to $150 and lasts decades with minimal maintenance. It processes wheat into flour, corn into meal, and legumes into powder, which gives you the raw ingredients for bread, tortillas, porridge, and protein-dense soups without any dependency on the grid. In a truly extended crisis, months, not days, the ability to process raw, long shelf-life grains into food is not a niche capability. It is the difference between a prepper who can feed their household for a year and one who runs out at week 6. This item is sitting in kitchen supply stores, in camping retailers, and online right now, fully available. Almost nobody in the mainstream prepping community has one, because the mainstream prepping community is not planning for the long scenario. Here is the bottom line. The prepping community is overwhelmingly predictable. They read the same content, buy the same gear, and feel secure because they are surrounded by other people making identical choices. When a real crisis strikes, that identical stockpile disappears from every shelf simultaneously because thousands of people were all trained to want the same things. The 11 items on this list operate outside that pattern. Potassium iodide for radiological protection nobody else considered, vodka for 6 critical functions in one $10 bottle, a Baofeng radio for information access when every other channel is dead, a pressure canner to eliminate your single biggest food storage vulnerability, a propane refill adapter to triple your effective fuel supply for $15, a pocket fishing kit for passive protein generation, cash for the 72-hour window when nothing electronic works, a tourniquet for the injuries that kill in minutes, not hours, a hand crank battery bank with no grid dependency whatsoever, super glue that outperforms a $30 repair kit, and a hand grain mill for the scenario that extends beyond weeks. These are the items that were on shelves during every disruption I watched, because nobody was trained to panic buy them. That advantage is available to you right now, but windows like this do not stay open forever. Get ahead of the crowd before the crowd figures out what you already know. Stay alert, stay ready, stay 3 steps ahead. If you made it this far, you are serious about this. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which item you are getting first. See you in the next one.